Okay.
Okay. So now, how it is possible for the senses to not come in contact with the sense objects. Now, if if I really want to discipline my senses so that it does not come in contact with the sense objects, then I have to discipline my mind, because it is because of the mind that the senses the senses have power. The senses has this capacity to receive everything, all the information that it has. Okay, when I am when my eyes is open and my mind is somewhere else, though my eyes is open, I don't see anything. So the eyes is not the problem. The problem is the mind which is behind the eyes. In the same way, my eyes are open, my ears are open, I'm going somewhere and I'm thinking about something else. So because I'm thinking about something else, though my ears are open and it's receiving all the sounds, but I don't hear a word, I don't hear nothing. In the same way, with all these other senses. So it is not that the senses, they come in contact with the sense objects. It is also the mind which is in contact with the senses. And because they are in contact with the senses, that enables the senses to get in contact with the, with the sense objects. So it is not the senses which actually needs to be, to be disciplined or controlled or restrained. It is the mind which needs to be restrained. Okay, so when it says that I should withdraw my senses from the sense objects, so it's not about the senses, it is about the mind, because it is the mind whose power is working in the senses, which enables the senses to get in contact with the sense objects. Okay, so Aditi, please translate.
Entonces dice, ¿cómo es posible no conectar los sentidos con los objetos de los sentidos? Si quieres disciplinar los sentidos, entonces debes disciplinar la mente, porque la mente es la que da el poder a los sentidos, la mente es la que tiene ese poder. Te pongo un ejemplo, dice, cuando mis ojos están abiertos y mi mente está en otro lugar, no veo nada. Aunque los ojos estén percibiendo formas, no estoy viendo nada porque la mente está en otro lugar. Así que el problema es de la mente, no es del sentido que percibe objetos. Es que si la oreja está percibiendo sonido, pero la mente está en otro lado, no me estoy dando cuenta, no estoy percibiendo ese sonido. Entonces hay que ir a la mente, hay que disciplinar la mente. La mente es la que conecta el sentido con el objeto de los sentidos. No necesitas disciplinar o restringir el sentido con el objeto del sentido. Lo que necesita atención es esta mente.
Okay.
Okay.
So, so then we see that it's not only the senses, it's the mind. So the mind needs to be controlled. And if the mind is controlled, then the senses cannot get attached to the sense objects. Now, is it this mind which needs to be controlled? Because, the mind is controlled by the intellect. The intellect is the one which determines, where the mind is going to work or not work. So when my mind is working in a certain area, so it's not about the mind, it's about the intellect, which makes the mind work. So when I'm talking about restraining my mind, it's more important for me to restrain the intellect. And if the intellect is not restrained, then the mind also will not be restrained or controlled. And if the mind is not restrained, the senses also cannot be restrained. So it is very essential, for me to restrain the, restrain the intellect, so that I can restrain the mind and and then the senses. So it's not only, that I want my senses to get rid of the sense objects and the sense objects are going to, get separated from the senses. It's not like that. I need a full control over my mind and that can only happen when I have full control over the sense, the intellect. Okay, so we need a controlled intellect, so that the mind can be controlled, and and uh, and further the senses can also be controlled. Aditi.
Entonces la mente necesita ser controlada. Entonces los sentidos no pueden apegarse a estos objetos de los sentidos, forma, sonido. Entonces no hay este correr de la mente hacia afuera. Entonces si la mente necesita ser controlada, lo que necesita ser controlado es el intelecto, porque es el que hace la mente trabajar, que es la parte superior de la mente. Así que lo más importante es restringir el intelecto. Si no hay una restricción del intelecto, la mente no se puede restringir, los sentidos no se pueden restringir y hay un apego a los objetos de este mundo. Si el intelecto se restringe, la mente se restringe y los sentidos entonces son restringidos. No solo es controlando los sentidos que no hay el apego a los objetos, es con el completo control de la mente, hay un completo control. Es necesario un completo control del intelecto, porque el intelecto es el que gobierna en la mente y así la mente puede controlar a su vez los sentidos.
Okay.
Yes.
So now, we need a controlled intellect. Now, who is going to control this intellect? If it is the ego which is controlling the intellect, then, the intellect cannot be controlled, because ego is a false entity. Ego does not exist. It's something which is not existing at all. It's just a delusion. So if when I say I am controlling my intellect, if this I is not the wisdom or the knowledge, if this I if by I don't mean the knowledge or the wisdom or consciousness, I only mean ego. If I mean ego, then the intellect cannot be controlled, because a non-existent cannot control anything. It cannot control anything which is existing. So the intellect cannot control the ego cannot control the intellect. The intellect also cannot control the mind, and the mind, and the mind also cannot control the senses. So it is more important. It's very important for us that the one that I say I is the consciousness. So if it is the consciousness, if it is the wisdom, then only the intellect, the intellect can be guided in a proper way. And when the intellect is guided in a proper way, then only the mind also is guided. And when the mind is guided, then the senses are also guided in the proper direction. And when the senses are guided in the proper direction, they cannot get attached to the sense objects. So when it says that you need to, your senses needs to separate itself from the sense objects, it's not only about the senses. Your senses cannot get rid of the sense objects on their own. They has to be controlled by an enlightened mind, which has to be controlled by an enlightened intellect. And this intellect also should be guided by an enlightened soul or self. So then only these senses can get rid of the sense objects. So a person who does not have any ego, who does not have this false recognition of I, who has a very clear cut and very complete recognition that this I is the self, this I is consciousness. For this person only the senses can restrain itself from the sense objects, and thus this particular person is the one whose wisdom is steadfast. Okay, Aditi. Do you understand? If you don't understand, you can ask me, because it's a little bit complicated. But this, they get cleared in the subsequent, verses.
Ok, traduzco. Dice, entonces, ¿quién controla el intelecto? Si estamos diciendo hasta ahora que todo era gobernado hasta aquí por el intelecto, y el ego, la falsa identidad, esta ilusión, está controlada desde la ignorancia por el intelecto es controlado por el conocimiento, por el yo real. Pero si el yo real no está, si lo que está es el ego, no puede suceder. Así que el yo, la conciencia, es la que controla el intelecto. Lo más importante es que el yo real, que la conciencia, sea la que esté gobernando el intelecto. Porque solo un intelecto guiado de forma correcta y apropiada puede guiar a la mente y puede guiar entonces a los sentidos en la dirección adecuada con los objetos percibidos. Así que no solo es cuestión de los sentidos, es necesario que la mente esté iluminada, que el intelecto esté iluminado y que la guía que está gobernando este intelecto sea la conciencia, sea el yo real. La persona que no tiene ego no tiene un falso reconocimiento de su identidad no real. La persona que no tiene ego, que está totalmente en reconocimiento de su yo como el ser, como la conciencia, esa persona está establecida en la sabiduría y gobierna sobre sus sentidos, sobre la mente y sobre el intelecto. Then, Swamiji, a question is, entonces una pregunta que tengo para Swamiji, the people that has not realization, the thing is because of it. The people that, a question that maybe people that has no realization, and it has been said to practice all of this, and because of it we take the truth of the Vedanta and we apply this truth, in spite that is not true still for the people that is practicing. So it's to give light about it, because some people will think, okay, yeah, but no, this is not the situation. How to practice? Okay,
this is a very good question. Thank you very much. The first thing is that you need to understand that this is not, when Krishna is saying this, he's not saying this about a common man. He's saying this about a self-realized soul who is completely established in the knowledge. Now, he is like this, Now, how to practice this? This is a very, very beautiful question. How to practice this? When you go behind this, from the senses to the mind, to the intellect, and to the ego, and then going beyond the ego, that is, you can reach the self. Now, this intellect, mind, the senses, mind, intellect, they are okay, but when they are guided by ego, then it is it makes everything wrong. But when the wisdom guides this intellect and mind, then everything is okay. Now, we don't need to think about the senses or the mind or the intellect or the wisdom. We have to just remove this ego. Now, how to remove this ego? This ego is something which is a false entity. Though it is a false entity, the person which says I, this I, this one that says I is the ego. But this I is not permanent. It's impermanent. So this is not the real I. The real I is always there. It's always permanent. So this is not the real I. So because this is not the real I, let us not perceive this I as my I. Let us practice this, that this I that I have, which is the ego. This I that I have, which is the ego, which is not there when I'm sleeping, which is not there when I'm into samadhi. So, something which does not stay at one point and then it comes again, is not true. So this I is not true. So whatever is I and associated with I is not I, is not me. So let me, have this full perception, very clear, that anything which is associated with this I and anything about this I is not me. I am the one which is beyond this I. So when when I have this full conviction that I am not this I, that is evident, that appears. I am not this I. I am the one which is beyond this I. When I have this full, conviction, that is the time when I realize this I. And when I realize this I, then only, I have, then only with subsequent, practice of yoga, then I can make my wisdom completely steadfast. Okay, Aditi, did you understand this? I think you should think about it. Whatever I said now, it's not so easy. It's not just think about it, and you can write to me tomorrow or day after tomorrow after thinking. What do you think? So we can have a discussion then. Just listen to it again, what I said, and think about it. And then probably after 2 days or 3 days we can have another conversation about this.
Ok, entonces pregunté a Swamiji cuál era la práctica para aquellos que no conocían el yo real, cuál era la práctica por lo que estamos diciendo, porque claro, estamos hablando de alguien que está establecido ahí. Y dice, sí, muy buena pregunta, es una pregunta interesante, estamos hablando de la práctica. Dice, la primera cosa que habla Krishna es de la persona que está completamente establecida. No está hablando de la persona común, está hablando de esa persona completamente establecida y que él además está ahí, está en ese establecimiento de la sabiduría. Así que lo que se nos dice es que si el ego es la guía para el intelecto, la mente y los sentidos en consecuencia, todo va mal. Pero si la conciencia, el yo real, la sabiduría, es la guía para el intelecto, la mente y los sentidos, entonces todo va ok. Entonces, no se trata de pensar sobre el intelecto, sobre los sentidos, sobre la mente. Se trata de sacar ese ego, sacar esa guía falsa, sacar esa falsa identidad. ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo sacas ese yo? Dándote cuenta que ese yo al que te estás refiriendo como tu identidad no es permanente, no es el yo real, porque no se sostiene. A veces está, a veces no está, a veces es percibido, a veces no. Entonces, no asociarte con ese yo real, con ese yo que no es permanente. No lo aceptes como real, no aceptes que el ego, que ese yo es real, porque es una falsa identidad. Entonces, practica esto de observar que el ego no es tu yo. Observa que este ego no está todo el tiempo. Cuando duermes no está, cuando vas a samadhi no está, a veces no está, va y vuelve. Este yo no es la verdad de lo que eres. Entonces, cualquier cosa que se asocia a este yo falso no es lo que tú eres. Tú no eres todo eso. Entonces, con esta percepción clara, esta es la práctica. Lo que tú eres está más allá de esto. Cuando tengo esta plena convicción, plenamente, entonces realizas tu yo real. Entonces, sigues con esta práctica del yoga y entonces te estableces en la sabiduría. ¿Tenéis alguna pregunta de esto? Porque es importante. Quiero que lo entendáis. Quizá lo escuchéis otra vez y penséis sobre esto. Quizá dentro de 2 días, dice Swamiji, podemos tener otra conversación sobre esto. Es importante que lo escuchéis otra vez, penséis sobre esto. Me podéis escribir también, preguntarme algo ahora, que cómo recibís. ¿Tenéis alguna pregunta de esto?
Okay.
Karma?
Hello.
Yes.
So I think that we should stop here, and we can continue
Ok,
it on the next week. And if you have any question, you can ask me. Okay.
ok, si tenéis alguna pregunta, la podéis enviar a Swamiji. Si no me la enviáis a mí, yo se la hago llegar a Swamiji y le podemos preguntar. Ok, Swamiji.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank
I
you.
do.
See you.
Thank you.
Next